Hunting for playworthy games can be a bit of a gamble. Sometimes the game you pick turns out to be a dud, but other times it's a gem. To help you avoid any disappointments, I've put together a list of the best games with great discounts that have already proven their worth. Stick around until the end, because I've included some bonus games that I personally love. Just a heads up, these discounts might vary depending on your region and time you're watching this. All right, let's get started. Let's kick things off with some first-person shooters that'll have you reaching for your mouse and keyboard faster than you can say headshot. First up, we've got Hunt Showdown at a mind-blowing 65% off. This game is not for the faint of heart, my friends. It's a hardcore player versus environment, also known as PvPvE experience set in the Louisiana swamps, where you're hunting monsters and other players in equal measure. The atmosphere is thick enough to cut with a knife, and the sound design? You'll be jumping at every twig snap and crow caw. The gunplay is deliberately slow and weighty, making each shot count. And let me tell you, nothing gets the heart pumping like taking down a boss monster, only to hear another team approaching to steal your bounty. It's a game of high risk and high reward, where a single mistake can cost you everything. But man, when you extract with that bounty, pure adrenaline rush. At this price, it's a no-brainer for anyone who loves a challenge. Now, if you're looking for something with a bit more grit and tension, Deep Rock Galactic is 67% off and ready to test your mettle. Listen up, miners. If you haven't jumped into this co-op masterpiece yet, now's your chance to join the Space Dwarf revolution. Picture this, you and 3 buddies, each with unique classes, diving into procedurally generated alien caverns, blasting bugs, and mining precious minerals. It's like if Minecraft and Left 4 Dead had a baby, and that baby was raised by a family of beer-chugging, beard-growing, rock-loving dwarves. The devs keep pumping out free content like it's going out of style, and they've even made all previous seasons replayable. No more fear of missing out, folks. At under $10, it's an absolute steal. Trust me, once you start yelling rock and stone, you won't be able to stop. For those of you craving a post-apocalyptic adventure, Metro Exodus is a whopping 80% off, and it's an absolute must-play. This isn't just another run-of-the-mill shooter, folks. Metro Exodus takes the claustrophobic survival horror roots of the series and expands them into vast, open areas that'll take your breath away. One minute you're creeping through irradiated tunnels, the next you're sailing across a dried-up Caspian Sea in your customized van. The attention to detail is insane, from the way frost builds up on your gas mask to the satisfying click of changing filters. And let's not forget the guns. Each weapon feels unique and can be customized 6 ways from Sunday. But what really sets Metro apart is its story and atmosphere. It's bleak, it's beautiful, and it'll stick with you long after the credits roll. At this price, you're practically stealing it. Another FPS game that is surely worth buying, we've got Battlefield 1 at an absolutely crazy 93% discount. Yup, you heard that right. It's real, and as of making this video, it's priced under $3. For less than the price of a fancy coffee, you can dive into one of the most immersive World War I experiences ever created. DICE really outdid themselves with this one, capturing the brutal, muddy chaos of trench warfare like never before. The campaign tells intimate stories from different fronts of the war, each one packing an emotional punch. But let's be real, the multiplayer is where Battlefield 1 truly shines. 64-player battles across sprawling maps with horses thundering past tanks while biplanes dogfight overhead. It's pure cinematic mayhem. The sound design is off the charts. You'll flinch at every nearby explosion and feel the rumble of artillery in your bones. And don't even get me started on the behemoths. There's nothing quite like seeing a massive Zeppelin descend on the battlefield, changing the tide of war. If you've somehow missed out on this gem, now's the time to correct that mistake. Moving forward, I also picked some of the best action-adventure games titles that you should definitely not miss. Batman Arkham Knight is also currently on sale right now, with a jaw-dropping 90% discount. That's a holy bargain, Batman! This is the epic conclusion to Rocksteady's Arkham trilogy, and boy does it go out with a bang. Gotham City has never looked better or felt more alive. You will be grappling between skyscrapers, gliding through neon-lit streets, and of course, dishing out justice with the Bat's signature free-flow combat system. And let's not forget the Batmobile. It's not just a fancy ride, it's practically a character in its own right. Some folks weren't keen on the tank battles, but personally, I loved transforming into a rolling fortress of Bat justice. The story keeps you guessing right up to the end, with some genuinely shocking twists. Plus, you get to go toe-to-toe with Batman's entire rogues gallery. It's the superhero game we deserve, and the one we need right now, so make sure to grab it as soon as possible. Next up, saddle up, partners. Because my favorite game, Red Dead Redemption 2, is 67% off, and it's time for you to also experience one of the best games of all time. Now, I know some of you might be thinking that this is just another open-world Rockstar game, but let me tell you, this is not just a simple game where you play as a cowboy stealing some horse. Red Dead Redemption 2 is quite possibly the most meticulously crafted, stunningly detailed game world ever created. You'll lose yourself for hours just exploring, hunting, fishing, and stumbling across hidden stories in every nook and cranny. The main story follows Arthur Morgan, and it's a slow burn epic that'll have you laughing, crying, and questioning your own moral compass. The gang feels like family, and watching their relationships evolve or deteriorate over time is something special. And when you're done with the 60+ hour campaign, there are still lots of side quests and hidden secrets that you can explore. And apart from that, there's a whole online world waiting for you. Up next, we have Yakuza Like a Dragon. If you haven't experienced the beautiful insanity of this series yet, now's your chance. Originally priced around $60, you can grab this game at an 80% discount. Forget everything you know about Yakuza games, because Like a Dragon flips the script with a brand new protagonist and a turn-based combat system. Don't worry though, it's still packed with the series' trademark blend of hard-boiled crime drama and absolutely bonkers side content. One minute you're having an emotional confrontation about honor and loyalty, the next you're managing a confectionery or racing go-karts. The new hero, Ichiban Kasuga, is an absolute cinnamon roll of a protagonist, and his party members are just as lovable. The job system lets you turn your crew into anything from breakdancers to fortune tellers, each with hilarious special moves. And the story? It'll keep you hooked from start to finish, and at the price of $12, it's practically criminal not to pick it up. Next up, we've got Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which is currently at 55% off as of making this video. Building on the solid foundation of Fallen Order, Survivor takes everything to the next level. Cal Kestis is back, older, wiser, and with a sweet beard to boot. The combat is tighter than ever, with new lightsaber stances that'll make you feel like a true Jedi Master. And let's talk about those Force powers. Using them in combat or to solve puzzles never gets old. This story delves deeper into the dark times of the Empire's reign, with some genuinely emotional moments and tough choices. Plus, the worlds you'll explore are vast and varied, from lush alien jungles to the neon-lit underbelly of Coruscant. If you're a Star Wars fan, this is an absolute must-play. And at this price, it's a deal even a Hut would approve of. Now that we're done with those play-worthy action-adventure games, let's proceed with some great role-playing games, starting off with Disco Elysium. This masterpiece is not your typical RPG. There's no combat, no dungeons, just pure storytelling and character building. You play as a detective with a hangover so epic, you've forgotten who you are. As you piece together your identity and solve a murder, you'll engage in some of the wittiest, most thought-provoking dialogue ever written in a game. Your skills are personified, arguing with you and each other. The art style is gorgeous, the voice acting is top-notch, and the choices you make have real, often unexpected consequences. If you decide to buy this game now, you'll get a 90% discount, which is a really great deal for a game with this quality. Next up, we have Cyberpunk 2077. Before you roll your eyes, hear me out. Yes, the launch was rougher than a Night City back alley, but CDPR has been working their augmented butts off. The game we have now is a far cry from what it was at launch, and it's the best time to buy the game while it's still at 50% discount. Night City is a neon-drenched playground of corporate intrigue. street-level grit, and mind-bending technology. The main story is a wild ride with some genuinely emotional moments, and the side quests, they're where the game really shines. You'll meet unforgettable characters, make tough choices, and uncover stories that'll stick with you long after the credits roll. The gameplay lets you approach situations your way, go in guns blazing, sneak around like a cyber ninja, or hack your enemies into oblivion. And let's not forget the absolutely banging soundtrack. And with the Phantom Liberty expansion out and more updates on the horizon, there's never been a better time to dive into Night City. At half off, it's a steal. Next on the list, we've got Hades at 60% off, and let me tell you, this game is hotter than the depths of Tartarus itself. Supergiant Games has outdone themselves with this roguelike masterpiece. You play as Zagros, son of Hades, trying to escape the underworld, and you will die. A lot. But each death makes you stronger, unlocks new story bits, and deepens your relationships with a cast of gorgeously realized Greek gods and mythological figures. The combat is silky smooth, with a wide variety of weapons and godly boons that let you create some truly broken builds. The art style is drop-dead gorgeous, and the voice acting is top tier across the board. But what really sets Hades apart is how it weaves its story into the roguelike structure. Every run feels fresh. Every conversation adds to the rich tapestry of the narrative. It's addictive in the best way possible. You'll always want just one more run. If you haven't played this game yet, maybe this is the best time to give it a try. Now, for those of you who like your games with a side of precision platforming and controller throwing difficulty, I've got some real treats for you. Currently, Super Meat Boy Forever can be purchased at an 80% discount. This game is madness, and it will surely make your teeth grind. This isn't just a sequel, it's a complete reimagining of what made the original so great. Meat Boy and Bandage Girl's baby, Nugget, has been kidnapped by the nefarious Dr. Fetus, and it's up to you to get her back. The levels are now randomly generated, which means infinite replayability. And before you cry foul, let me tell you, these procedurally generated stages are as deviously designed as anything handcrafted. The controls have been streamlined as Meat Boy now auto-runs, and you've got just 2 buttons to work with. But don't let that fool you, because this game will test your reflexes and your sanity in equal measure. The difficulty curve is perfect, gradually introducing new mechanics and ramping up the challenge. And the boss fights? They're the cherry on top of this meaty sundae. To be honest, this game has the most challenging gameplay among all the games on this list. Next up, we've got Hollow Knight, and just like the previous game, this will also punish you with its challenging gameplay. Team Cherry has crafted a hauntingly beautiful world yet challenging journey that you'll want to get lost in. You play as a little bug knight, exploring the vast, interconnected underground kingdom of Hallownest. The hand-drawn art style is gorgeous, the music is atmospheric and memorable, and the gameplay? Well, as I mentioned, it's as tight as a drum. Combat is challenging, requiring you to learn enemy patterns and time your strikes perfectly. This is a requirement as you'll be facing a lot of relentless bosses. That being said, prepare to die a lot. Each death is a lesson, so you'll feel the sense of accomplishment once you finally beat the boss that has been punishing you. The lore of the game is deep and mysterious, doled out in tantalizing bits that'll keep you exploring every nook and cranny. And with multiple endings and a ton of optional content, you're getting a ridiculous amount of game for your money. And speaking of money, you can grab Hollow Knight for half of its original price. So if you love playing Metroidvania games, Hollow Knight is a must-play. Next up, we've got Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and oh my goodness, is this game a feast for the senses. The developer has taken everything that made the first Ori great and cranked it up to 11. The Forest of Niwen is a living, breathing work of art, with each area distinct and memorable. The platforming is fluid and satisfying, with new abilities that make traversal a joy. Combat has been greatly expanded from the first game, with a variety of weapons and skills to customize your playstyle. But what really sets Ori apart is its heart. The story is emotional and impactful, dealing with themes of loss, hope, and sacrifice. You'll laugh, You'll cry, and you'll be on the edge of your seat during some truly epic set pieces. The soundtrack is absolutely sublime, perfectly complementing every moment of triumph and tragedy. Now, the game is currently 67% off, which I highly recommend getting. But in case you haven't played the first Ori game yet, I suggest you get the bundle, which is currently priced at around $14. Now, if you're not into platforming games, then you can check some of the best strategy games that I have for you. When it comes to strategy games, one I recommend is Gloomhaven, and if you get it right now, you'll enjoy a 60% discount. Based on the critically acclaimed board game, Gloomhaven brings the tabletop experience to life in digital form. You'll lead a party of mercenaries through a dark fantasy world, making choices that affect the story and unlock new content. The combat is deep and satisfying, with a unique card-based system that forces you to think several turns ahead. Each character feels distinct, with their own playstyle and abilities to master, and the amount of content here is staggering. We're talking hundreds of hours of gameplay with branching storylines and tons of unlockables. The devs have been consistently adding new features and content, making this an even better deal. At this price, you're getting an incredibly deep, endlessly replayable tactical RPG that'll keep you engaged for months to come. Another strategy game, which is currently at 95% off right now, is XCOM 2. You heard it right, folks. This masterpiece of tactical strategy can be yours for just $3. If you've never played an XCOM game before, you're in for a treat. You're in charge of a resistance movement trying to take back Earth from alien occupiers. The turn-based combat is tense and unforgiving. One wrong move can spell doom for your carefully trained soldiers. But when a risky play pays off, there's no feeling quite like it. The base management aspect adds another layer of strategy as you balance research, engineering, and global defense. And with the War of the Chosen DLC, which is also on sale, you get even more content, including new enemy types and hero classes. The modding community is also incredibly active, meaning you can tweak the game to your heart's content. At this ridiculous discount, there's absolutely no reason not to pick this up. Alright, for you brave souls who like your games with a side of nightmares, I've also got some horror titles recommendations that'll have you sleeping with the lights on. I've got 3 games actually, with Resident Evil Village as my top recommendation among them. Grabbing Resident Evil Village now is a wise decision since it's been slashed to a 60% discount. Village takes the first-person perspective of Resident Evil 7 and cranks everything up to make it even more terrifying. You're thrust into a mysterious village filled with all manner of monstrosities, from werewolves to vampires and things that defy description. The atmosphere is thick enough to cut with a knife, alternating between pulse-pounding action and nerve-wracking tension. Each area of the game has its own distinct flavor of horror, keeping you on your toes throughout the entire experience. The gunplay feels weighty and satisfying, and resource management keeps you constantly on edge. The story also ties into the overarching Resident Evil lore in some genuinely surprising ways, while still being accessible to newcomers. The character designs are unforgettable. You'll be talking about these villains long after the credits roll, with the Winter's expansion adding even more content, including a third-person mode and new mercenary stages. You're getting a ton of bang for your buck. Next up, we've got Tormented Souls at a whopping 75% off. And let me tell you, this one's for all you classic survival horror fans out there. If you've been yearning for the days of fixed camera angles, limited resources, and brain-teasing puzzles, this is a treat for you. Tormented Souls is like a love letter to the golden age of survival horror, taking cues from classics like Resident Evil and Silent Hill, but with a modern twist. You play as Caroline, investigating the disappearance of twin girls in a creepy, abandoned hospital. And when I say creepy, I mean nightmare fuel, folks. The atmosphere in this game is thicker than pea soup, with every corner hiding a new horror. The fixed camera angles aren't just a throwback, they're used masterfully to ramp up the tension. You'll never know what's lurking just out of view. The puzzles are delightfully old school, requiring you to really explore and think outside the box. The story goes places you won't expect, touching on some seriously dark themes. Now, fair warning. The voice acting can be a bit cheesy, but in my book, that just adds to the retro charm. And now that Tormented Souls 2 is on its way, there's no better time to jump into this game. This is an absolute steal for anyone looking to recapture that classic survival horror magic or experience it for the first time. Just don't blame me if you need to sleep with the lights on after playing. Up next is Made of Scare, and this one plays a lot like an old-school survival horror. Set in a remote hotel off the British coast, Made of Scare draws inspiration from Welsh folklore to create a truly unique and terrifying experience. The game's standout feature is its sound-based stealth mechanics. The enemies are blind but have superhuman hearing, forcing you to hold your breath, move carefully, and use sound to your advantage. It's nerve-wracking in the best way possible. The atmosphere is thick with dread, the hotel itself a character with its creaky floorboards and dark corners. The story unfolds through notes and recordings, painting a picture of a family torn apart by ambition and dark rituals. While the game can be a bit slow-paced for some, those who appreciate a more methodical, tension-building approach to horror will find a lot to love here. At a 76% discount as of making this video, it's a steal for anyone looking for a different flavor of fear. Now, if the fun of horror isn't your cup of tea, here's my personal favorite that I highly recommend. Since we're about to get the next Grand Theft Auto title next year, jumping into a similar game might be a good idea. I'm talking about Mafia Definitive Edition, which is currently at 75% off, and if you've never experienced this classic gangster tale, now's the perfect time. This isn't just a remaster, folks. It's a full-blown remake that brings the original's 1930s setting to stunning life. You play as Tommy Angelo, a taxi driver who gets pulled into the world of organized crime. The story is pure gangster movie gold, with twists, betrayals, and moral dilemmas that'll keep you hooked. The attention to detail in recreating 1930s Lost Heaven is incredible. From the architecture to the vintage cars, it's like stepping into a time machine. The gameplay has been modernized, with tight shooting mechanics and satisfying driving. But what really sets Mafia apart is its commitment to immersion. Speed limits are enforced, period-appropriate music plays on the radio, and the city feels alive with activity. With so many details that the game offers, it's not surprising to see why some players keep on saying that this game is way ahead of its time. Anyway, if you haven't played this game yet, please try it now. And there you have it, folks. Remember, these discounts won't last forever, so don't wait too long to pull the trigger. If you enjoyed this rundown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all my latest content. And hey, let us know in the comments what games you're picking up in the sale. Thanks for watching.